All right, it is 5:55 p.m. Tuesday afternoon, July 23rd. So we're doing a podcast for our CitySights, most recently at the San Antonio Spurs AT&T Center. And so basically, we're just going to start off with some introductions. Drishya, you want to start off?
Sure. Hi. My name is Drishya. I'm a mechanical engineering student. I'm a senior. We're all actually doing CityMester, which is city semester, and part of the CityMester we're doing a city internship and a service side. So I'm currently doing my internship with a company called Elevate Systems. They just design. There's aerospace and design company. And my service side is actually with San Antonio Spurs.
Cool.
Hi, my name is Luis Mota, and I'm a cybersecurity major, senior, and also a student for CityMester. My service site is with the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, and what I've basically been doing for them is a lot of IT and IS/cybersecurity work. So I do a lot of work with their websites, their databases, and just communications in general.
Yeah, and so my name's Kiran. I'm also a senior. My internship is at Bandera Family Health, so I kind of help around interning for a doctor with whatever he needs, just around to different clinics all over San Antonio. My service site is with Mosque for the Masses. Basically, we help out with educating children from the ages of toddler to second grade about Mexican American cultural studies, and we do various workshops with them. And so, yeah, we're just going to talk about a little bit about what CityMester is, what our experiences was like for the first 6 weeks now, and then trying to lead that up into our last CitySights at AT&T Center, and then we'll go from there.
Right. This is also our first podcast, so
yeah, I feel like Luis, you have a really good podcast voice. Like you have one of those relaxing podcast voices. Cool. Okay. Yeah. So the significance of CityMester, like kind of like what you heard, was to kind of pair us up with a company or a work setting which we wanted to pursue. So for me, I'm a pre-med, biology major, so working in a clinic environment was really good to expose me to different things in the field of medicine. For Drishya, obviously, for what is it, cybersecurity?
Right. No, I'm a mechanical engineering, and I think CityMester it's really done put me out there because I've never had an internship before.
Yeah.
And just having an internship and experiencing industry is pretty great.
Yeah, and also a lot of the times for any STEM field, it's very difficult to get an internship when you have no, I guess you could say not credentials or skills, but when you don't have some sort of certification or previous experience, which is difficult to get because you can't get previous experience. It's kind of like
like a loop.
It's a loop. It's difficult to get into it if you don't have someone to kind of get you in there, and that's who Lisa was for us, kind of.
Like for me, I didn't even know what an internship meant. Like I heard this term throughout 3 years of college. I had no idea. Like, okay, so what do you really do? You just go there and you work and you get hired. So I worked in a clinical setting for years, before, but I worked for a company, where we would scribe for the doctor. So wherever the doctor went, I would follow them around. I would basically type everything that they talked about in the clinic, in the room with the patient. And if I needed to order medications for the doctor, I would do that. But here, it's different. It's not me with the title of a scribe under a company that the clinic is paying for. Instead, I'm really following the doctor, and whatever the doctor needs, if I need to actually touch the patient, I have the ability to do that because it's not so. There's not so many regulations, and so that's something that we really do appreciate Lisa for doing that for us.
That's pretty cool. My girlfriend was also a scribe actually, and
oh yeah,
it's a good.
It's good for exposure. Yeah, it's good for exposure, but you're so restricted. You're so restricted for sure.
Yeah. So we're going to talk about our Spurs visit, but before that, we've had a lot of previous city site visits to Pearl and San Antonio, Credit Human. Headquarters, Hemisphere, Texas Culture, Geekdom. We've gone to a lot of places, so we're just going to talk about some of them and talk about what we learned, we saw.
Which was pretty cool. All of them were pretty cool, pretty insightful. I guess the whole program is just for us to kind of get to know San Antonio.
Yeah.
And we are knowing all those different aspects of San Antonio that I would have never experienced if I never did CityMester.
I guess a big point is the juxtaposition between CitySights and City Solutions. Obviously it took us even a few weeks to even realize there was a difference. But CitySights is where we travel to different parts of San Antonio, different areas, and we kind of explore that location. Whether it like Luis said, if it is Geekdom or if it is Hemisphere or any location, we go there and really explore the place, the people who work there, and kind of the backgrounds of everybody at that location. Whereas City Solutions is where we kind of integrate ourselves into San Antonio's community to see how we can extend our hand to help people directly. And so I guess we could also talk about our city solutions and how we've impacted San Antonio that way. But yeah, I mean, to start off with CitySights, like which one do you guys think touched you the most?
I I've liked everything. I think Geekdom was pretty. I like the culture in Geekdom. I guess everything that has to do with culture is kind of been good for me because I want to get. So whenever I signed up for CityMester, I told Elisa that I wanted somewhere where there's good culture. That's my number one priority. And seeing Geekdom and even AT&T Center, they had a very good culture. So the two of them were pretty significant for me.
I think for me, Credit Human was one of the most impactful, not necessarily because of culture or anything like that, but just because of the financial literacy that we got off of that session. And I had a lot of questions, and I didn't really know how credit worked until I realized just,
And I think that's a lot of problem with college students, or like a lot of people in general. They don't know how things work because they just get into it like so fresh, and it's super hard. Like it's a complicated system.
No, I openly don't know anything about it, and so I recently learned about it this year, and I'm 22 now. And so like when I before I turned 22, like I also signed off on a car, like how you did, but I co-signed it, and I had no idea like the difference between signing with a credit union and signing with the bank, and interest rates and whatnot. But like to have that one-on-one with Mac Anthony, I think his name was at Credit Human, so him for just to stay there and like answer our questions, it really makes me like ask the question like, I love UTSA, but why is Texas politics a prereq? But
something like that is not
financial literacy is not there.
Yeah.
I can't take Texas politics. I can only take Texas politics so far.
Right.
Into the real world. But stuff like that would really help me.
Right. Also, like I'm an international student, so whenever I came in, for me, I knew about credit scores because I actively looked it up because I wanted to know what it was, and everyone was talking about it, and I subscribed to like YouTube channels about it. We're talking about that, but like for me, it was that experience. So going there, I saw like a lot of people did not actually have that experience. Obviously, that's something that was something good, and I think it only started this year in CityMester.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think this was the first time, I believe.
Actually, I think I've noticed this. It's kind of like a recurring theme when you consider how a lot of college students don't know much about finance and stuff like that, real world stuff that could be helpful. It's also to the point where before this I would never have thought to get out in San Antonio and explore anything. It seems like we're always like in these books and we're just like reading things that other people have like written, but we never get out there and we never experience things for ourselves. And that's one of the things that I like about this program, the exposure that we get, the first-hand exposure.
Yeah. Right. I think another one was the Pearl because like personally, like I've been to the Pearl a couple times, but not with the scope that we entered the Pro with this last time when we went a few weeks ago because, Dr. De Oliver, his presentation was really powerful to the point where you go in and you look at the Pearl and it's not just the restaurants and buildings. It's a home that was, once belonged to a lot of people. And then, you look at it through the lens of gentrification and the history of the area and how, we heard in the past that the Pearl wasn't always the Pearl. That was a location people didn't always want to go to.
Right.
You go to it now with a whole, consumer attitude. The place is beautiful and it's meant to be hung around by families and people of all ages. And I don't know, it makes you feel funny. It makes you feel different, once you go there, not with your significant other, but with your classmates, with the education of gentrification. Like, without that lecture, I think I'd be lacking in some area.
What do you think of that lecture? What did you take out of it?
Yeah, I was talking to a couple classmates about that. And like, some people have really powerful way with their words, and some people, like, regardless of what they're saying, you can really gravitate towards that. But for Dr. De Oliver, he had a powerful way with his words as well as a lot of, credibility. What he was saying was really there, because we learned
you can see it in real time.
Yeah, it's real time, and we learned about the origins of it in the 50s and how the whole mentality of consumerism took over and where it is now, how it's evolved. It's kind of crazy to see it taken to fruition. What do you guys think?
Oh, I like the energy when he was in the room and he was talking and everyone was actually listening to him. And I agree, gentrification is happening. It happens. It's real.
The thing that I have stuck in my head is I know that the word gentrification has a negative connotation to it.
Yeah.
But when I see the Pearl, it's like I don't really seem to mind.
It doesn't have to be bad.
That's what made me feel really weird. You know, it's because like
bad.
the Pearl is a really nice spot in San Antonio.
It's like a paradox. I don't know how I should feel about it.
Yeah. I think actually, what really messed with my head that day from Dr. Day Oliver's presentation was when he talked to us about historic centers. Like the words historic center, when he was like saying, anytime you see the word historic center, that's really money being put into a certain area by the government to gentrify an area. And I was like, wow, you take this and then you think about different parts of the United States, and it's like, how many historic centers do we really have?
It got me thinking about how downtown UTSA is currently under renovation, and how I was just thinking, you know, like there's a lot of homeless people there.
Yeah.
And a lot of them are, you know,
they hang right there, right next to campus.
Right next to the campus, and I just think about it. It's like, what are they going to do with all those people once they expand and once they build dormitories?
Right. I don't know. I saw a picture, like a lot of places, you know, like a lot of touristy places around the world. You see like a very good touristy places. I think it was the pyramid of in Egypt, and right there is the pyramid, and there's a city, and right next to it, I'm not sure if it's the pyramid, but it's something like very famous.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, I think it was the Taj Mahal.
Okay.
And right next to it, this area is just like, it's just middle class people living, not even middle class, like middle to lower income people just living there. And right next to it is like this grand Taj Mahal made of marble.
Yeah.
It's kind of, you know, like how that works.
Well,
that's crazy because like we literally saw Dean Kelly's, you know, proposal for not Dean Kelly, just UTSA's, you know, future plans as to what the downtown campus is going to look like. And then you see like on Houston and Pecos or whatever it was, like where you see all the homeless people hang out, they're just there. Like, what are you going to do with that? Is that like, I don't know. That's kind of crazy to think about.
One of the things that got me also thinking a lot is that San Antonio is a place where a lot of homeless people actually migrate to.
Yeah.
So because they know of all the social programs and the help that they could receive here, what's going to happen when all those people come here and it's like, no, it's not here anymore. So where are they going to go? Now we're going to have a higher homeless population. It's just...
You know what I was thinking during that, during when we were going around downtown? I was like, at least it's not as Houston. Or, you know, Houston has a lot of homeless people. Or I've seen a lot of homeless people around Houston downtown. But again, Houston is a bigger city. That's why there are more homeless people.
I mean, barely, though. You know, you're talking about the 4th most populated city versus, like, the 7th, you know?
Right.
And it's just crazy. You're right, but it's still crazy.
Because I remember going to Houston and going to the bus stop there. I think I was trying to take the Greyhound.
Yeah.
There were, like, so many homeless people there. It just blew my mind.
So I volunteer at this clinic downtown every Sunday morning, and so we can really visualize the whole homeless population growing because there are so many, you know, there's so much accessibility and resources for them to come here that we've seen people come from cities like Houston,
right?
And they walk from Houston, they walk from San Marcos, New Braunfels, all those different cities to come to get, you know, access to medications, find their social security, get identification, all that kind of stuff. But if you go ahead,
okay, so is it better in San Antonio for the homeless people compared to Houston? In terms of what?
So, you know,
I'm just curious.
Yeah, so I can't advocate for anything from Houston because I lived there I was a kid. I don't remember anything back then. But speaking strictly from like the homeless population perspective, at my clinic, if someone does not have identification, they can come talk to our social workers. If someone has a history of PTSD, we have someone to talk to them about that. We have somewhere for them to go if they're missing teeth. We have somewhere for them to live if they need to go live at, you know, Haven for Hope. It's a shelter where there's a courtyard. Right. I mean, obviously living conditions are not ideal, but you know, you relate that to what Luis was talking about, what you guys were talking about with city versus like Taj Mahal versus population outside. Right. You can talk about the AT&T Center. Mm. The AT&T Center, when we were in that basement area, you know, you saw plants everywhere. It looked beautiful. Right. The place was really great. Right. You walk a few, you know, blocks down and you're going to see the same exact thing. Mm. You know, so what do you guys think about that?
You know, I kind of, it's okay too, because, you know, you don't want everything to be the same either. But again, what kind of surprises me is like the drastic change that happens, because it's not a bad thing by itself, but it's just like socially, it's just there. It just happens all the time.
You mean like the imbalances? Infrastructure, how one building is like beautiful and rich, and the other one is poverty.
Exactly.
Pretty much. Yeah. No, I've noticed that too.
I said we don't have to limit it to basketball stadiums, but if you do talk about basketball stadiums, every single basketball stadium around the country is around downtown, and you walk a little bit across, and it's not so safe, you know. And yeah, that's the reality of it. And you think about that, you know, the basketball stadium was only there for 50 years, but the people around there who have been lacking in resources, they've been there forever. So every single basketball stadium could be its own form of gentrification.
Have you weren't there in Hemisphere?
No. No.
Okay. In Hemisphere, it was like kind of a similar situation as well. The people, when Hemisphere came to San Antonio in 1968, the people who lived around Hemisphere, they actually had homes around there, and they all have to leave, and they built a park there.
Oh.
But you know, there were people living there for, I don't know, like 20 years or 30 years, and they all had to leave. And
Let's flip this a little bit, because I was reading something about Amazon in New York and how Amazon bailed out of New York so that something like that.
Right.
Okay, so and so one side is that we don't have to have a company that doesn't treat its employees as well enough exist in New York, and the other side was that we lost access to 250,000 jobs.
Okay.
So we think about the AT&T Center, and we met a lot of the people there. What do you guys think about that? I mean, there's a lot of really great, smart, intelligent people from all over the country who work there. But at the same time, you know, I mean, it's not Amazon, but there are a lot of people who probably were kicked out of that area for that stadium to be built, for us to know the organization we know today.
Right. I mean, I hope they were compensated well.
Yeah. Yeah. When I think about, you know, the fact that the Spurs Stadium, like you had mentioned, is built downtown, and there's a lot of homeless population downtown. It just baffles me, you know, the fact that, like you said, there's a lot of very intelligent, very successful people there working at the stadium, not just necessarily with the Spurs, but like there's a lot of like just good things going on there. And then all around the side, it's just trickling down, and it's like a lot of people came from all over the country to work here, but what about the people that live in San Antonio? I wonder, what if you had given them those opportunities, those jobs to, you know, work at the AT&T Center and have those high income jobs?
That's true. Like, okay, so what did you notice about the people we met? You know, we had a panel, so there was an introduction by Tim
Dirk.
Tim Dirk. Yeah, so Tim Dirk was the mascot of the Spurs for a very long time, and I think he recently retired. But he gave us a really good rundown and introduction and history of the Spurs organization, if we hadn't had prior knowledge about it. But then we also had a panel full of workers from different areas, different backgrounds, talk about their perspective, how they ended up at the Spurs organization. So, like, Luis, what did you notice about that panel when they kind of gave their introductions to us?
It just makes me think about how it's great to always have a balance. You can't say, oh, I'm going to hire only native people of San Antonio, and you can't say I'm only going to hire out of state, because they're clearly the ones that went to better schools or anything like that. Because if you adopt either mentality, then you're not going to get anywhere. You always have to, you know, compromise and meet in the middle. I'm going to get a little bit from here and a little bit from there. That's what I got from all of that.
Right. I was actually talking to one of my friends about this. You know, getting people who are here, because I'm an international student again. Because, you know, people who were born in the United States compared to people who are coming in, because there are a lot of people coming in. What he said, or what he was talking about, was, you know, how it builds up competition for him, and if someone is better, and you want to be better as well, and it kind of lifts both of you like up in that way. And also, you know, like having diversity, having all these great ideas coming in from all these different directions. I think in terms of, I'm again taking this towards diversity, but, you know, I think diversity is super important in anything, in any kind of like creative idea or creative work.
Yeah, we saw someone was, you know, at law school for 1 year.
Right.
He was from Vermont. We had another guy this lady was in Mississippi. She lived in New Orleans for a while. So another guy was engineering.
Right.
And we met someone very close to our age who was from Houston. Actually, there was a couple people from Houston, but he was a track runner. You know, it's like, and to see that an organization that prides themselves on being the best basketball organization in the country, and kind of visualize that in very small, you know, cross section. You know, you really do see it. You really do see it, even if it is whatever it was, 8 people who were talking to us.
Right. It also going to the AT&T Center, you know, it's not only about basketball, because
That's a big point. Yeah.
People from all directions of life, they're coming in, and it's not just basketball people. Like, it's just not like 20 people playing basketball. You need a whole team to support them.
Yeah, and we saw, like, you know, kind of bouncing back on the idea of people in need. We saw that they have their own disaster relief, you know, projects that they do. So they go out and they volunteer to kind of At Hurricane Harvey, was it, where they took a bus and they just kind of helped the people out in the area with evacuations and disaster relief. So, they definitely don't, skimp out on certain areas for sure with their organization, which is good to see.
Right. I'm also doing my service with Silver and Black Impact, which is the nonprofit for Spurs. And at first, when I talked to Silver and Black Impact, I was like, why does Spurs exist, or why does Silver and Black Impact even exist? Why is a nonprofit needed for a sports company, like a basketball team? And what they actually do is, they have to bring in all these players and they have to find them somewhere. And what they are doing is they're building all these like great basketball courts. Not only that, they're renovating, they are kind of training people from scratch, like finding talent. And just in hindsight, it doesn't actually sound like something, like impressive or anything. But that's how all these basketball players or all these great athletes come in, right? They have to start somewhere.
Yeah.
And they're giving them a good platform to start.
Actually, one thing I noticed is talking about different places and different people, from different areas to seek that platform. We even saw that not just with the people we met, but you were talking about how Tim Duncan wasn't even a basketball player initially. Right. Tim Duncan was a swimmer, so.
Yeah, that's crazy.
And it seems as though everybody we met in the Spurs organization is good at multiple things. They're not, restricted to one thing that they're good at. They're all kind of masters of their craft. I think what they said was if you're going to be, you can tell that those people were going to be successful, right, regardless of whatever they were doing. So that's definitely provided some insight. I know, some other people had already done their research about the Spurs before, but to go in there kind of not knowing anything behind the scenes, other than superficially watching basketball, it's good for us to get some perspective from, for sure.
Right, and they said they had about 400 employees.
Yeah, and then we saw the cubicles. Like, what did you think about the cubicles? Theirs is very tight, right?
Yeah, it's very tight and close-knit kind of work environment that they have. But actually, what you mentioned earlier about the whole, you could tell that they were going to accomplish something no matter what. What was that story with Tim Duncan? He was training to be a swimmer, right? With his sister?
Him and his sister were training for swimming, and something happened.
Natural disaster.
He didn't want to go into the ocean.
It destroyed the pool.
Yeah.
And then they had to train.
He hated the ocean.
And he hated the ocetion, and he said, "No, I'm not going to do this." So he started.
He was going to play basketball.
Yeah,
and it worked out.
It kind of inspired me in a way because it made me think I've been applying for internships since last year, and it was always a point where I think I got it, and I was like, I don't got it, and then this year I waited until the very end until I saw that I actually had something, and it's right. It's been constantly like that. It's like. I'm the fish in the reel right there, and it just escapes right as I'm about to bite the reel, and it's very disheartening sometimes. But just hearing that and seeing how all these people, that one guy that was going to go to law school, and then out of his first year, he decided that he wasn't going to do it, and that's an investment. I'm thinking of going to law school, and I know that that's an investment. That's like $30,000 that he's not going to get back, and it's a whole year of his life that. You could see it as I'm never going to get it back, or you could see it as, hey, I learned that I hate this and I want to do something else.
Yeah,
that's a mentality I want to adopt.
And I think it is also being open-minded. If say Tim Duncan, if he was not open-minded and he wanted to swim, we would not have Tim Duncan. He would not be playing basketball, and a lot of other people who worked at the Spurs who were going for engineering or for law.
Yeah. Yeah, and most of them didn't even know they were going to end up there, If a commonality I saw was that everybody submitted their application to some arbitrary
everyone was
website.
Hey, whatever.
I'm just going to try. I'm going to shoot my shot. And then you realize every single one of these people have a huge impact on whatever they're doing right now. They love what they're doing. Some people have been there for 13 years. Some people were there for 20 years. And you could tell that the person who was there for 6 months wanted to be there for 13 years, and that's crazy to me.
Right.
So I don't know. I don't think I would be happy in the same place for 13 years. I feel like I have to keep moving. I can't stay in one spot,
The same way. Yeah.
But that's definitely an eye-opening experience.
Right. And something he said that I forgot. Just totally forgot what I was supposed to.
Which one? Which guy?
One of those guys. They were just talking about their journey there,
The first one, the engineer guy?
Oh, the one who said he wanted to be an engineer, but he didn't know how he was going to use it.
Yeah, that was the first one who talked all the way to the left.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not him either.
Oh, okay.
But I forgot who it was.
The one who got fired from Dell?
Oh, that's crazy too, yeah.
Yeah,
someone got fired from Dell, fired from your job, and it still ended up getting a good job I guess like never give up, just keep going.
Yeah.
That kind of mindset too.
Well, yeah, that's true.
I mean, I guess like if we relate that to all the different city sites, they all did provide their own piece of insights to us. But how do you guys think that affects the way you guys look at the Spurs, and how do you guys think that affects the way you guys look at San Antonio in general? Because obviously, it's not just a stadium. It's not just a stadium, occupying space. It's not just a basketball team. So, I mean, they do provide jobs for San Antonio people, natives and outside.
Right. I mean, they're definitely bringing jobs, and I figured that only one person is not, only like a team is not running the whole company. It's a company at the end of the day. They have to make money, they have to run, they have to pay their employees. It kind of, I didn't have that perspective of Spurs, even though I'm kind of doing a few events for them.
Yeah.
They're trying to go out there in the community as well.
You guys remember like in the beginning of the first day of CityMester how we talked about no, we don't want to become like the next DFW, but we do want to build that relationship with Austin,
right.
To make this, San Antonio, Austin fusion metropolitan, like cosmopolitan kind of area. And, when you look at that and you think of people being given jobs here from California, this does help that Austin, San Antonio connection for sure. I think it makes San Antonio unique in a lot of different ways. I mean, we already have headquarters like USAA, what else do we have, Valero, to think of that, and then having a huge basketball organization here, it makes San Antonio that much more relevant in the grand scheme of things, I think.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, I remember what I was trying to say about relationships. Someone said you never know where a relationship is going. You don't want to burn down bridges either, and you never know where it's going to take you, and that's something that stuck with me after that.
Yeah.
That's, yes, a lot. I can't, yes. I can't really stress how many times I've met somebody and I really thought I'm probably never going to, nothing important's going to come off of this.
Yeah.
Maybe it was cynical, but that's what I got off of that. And next thing you know, it's I think that actually happened with one of my best friends.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah. So, and I know that happens every day in the corporate world or the business world or any field that you're trying to work in.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Drishya's completely correct. You should not ever burn any bridges.
You don't get that cutthroat kind of sense, when you go there either. So
yeah, they were really. I mean, the culture in Spurs again. They were making jokes, but it was, you could see that they were comfortable around.
They know each other, They
know each other, even though that was one person. They were only there for 4 months or something. They were still kind of getting into it, and they were really comfortable.
Yeah.
And it's also come back to hiring, hiring people who are gonna fit in the organization.
Yeah. That was what really
right.
kind of made me think, because I asked her, I was like, so how do you guys build this? How do you guys kind of? I think you asked the resume question.
Right.
You asked the resume question after I asked the HR question. Yeah, you have a bunch of applicants, but what do you specifically search for? And what I kind of got out of it was that there was no concrete answer.
Yeah.
You do have to gauge someone from a piece of paper, but at the same time, regardless of who they are, once they get hired, I feel like they're going to adapt that mentality. And like you said, they're going to adapt that mentality, really fit in, or they're going to be out really quick.
I still don't understand, because I've been applying to a lot of companies again. I don't hear back from anyone. I don't get, just by looking at a piece of paper, how can you tell how a person's going to fit? And
Dude, tell me about it.
Yeah, if that method's even good, I don't really know.
At this point, I just think a lot of it is luck.
Yeah.
Because that's how I've gotten one of my interviews, and it was I didn't apply for it, somebody just found my resume.
Yeah,
it's turned out to be a great opportunity.
In Dell, right?
Yeah, the cybersecurity federal department at Dell is what? I was not applying for this at all, but they emailed me out of nowhere, hey, you want to come in for an interview? And it's wow, okay, I'm so underqualified for this, but I'll do it.
Yeah, again, I guess it comes back to being open-minded, and you never know what's going to come, and you might go towards Spurs or you never know what's going to come. You just have to keep going.
I can speak for that because obviously for med school it's cutthroat, competitive application. Everybody has the same thing: really good GPA, really good MCAT score, really good service hours, clinical hours. But I think a big thing is not so much to look at it as a piece of paper, but whatever environment, whatever school you put into, you do have to be able to adapt to that place. You do have to be able to make the most out of the people you're around. And I think they all do that.
Yeah, I think another great one is who you know.
Yeah.
You need to branch out. That's where networking comes in on all the people, all the relationships that you make.
Mm-hmm.
You have to put yourself out there. You have to talk to people. You can think of things all day, but if you, at the end of the day, if you don't go and talk to people, if you don't Like, for example, if you don't message someone on LinkedIn or anything, you're never gonna get your first step. Like, I guess when they say like first step is the most important, that makes sense. You have to do it. Thinking is one thing, and doing it is another thing.
That's a good point, because like I remember, I think a couple weeks ago we were talking to Elisa. I think after or during the day of our presentations. I think it was after you guys actually, and you guys were talking about your nonprofit and all that stuff. And Elisa said like your internships are great. Your internships are amazing, but they're not there for you to learn. Like they're there for you to network from. Because I think she's right. I think learning is a consequence of the time you spend around certain people in that area. But the networking you do on your own in your own time during your internship is probably the stuff that you're actually going to take away from you. And you're going to actually see the results.
Right. I've been in UTSA's engineering for 4 years already, and what I realize I've learned is actually working hard. Because engineering, it gets you sometimes. You have to study the material. You have to know the basics. You have to know the foundations. But it has taught me. So as an employer, if I'm trying to hire someone, I know that this guy's going to work hard because you have to solve problems that are hard, and it's not about the actual material itself. It's about putting your attitude about solving problems. That's kind of how the way I'm feeling, because it's not relevant. All the stuff you learn in school, all the topics or all the concepts in the company I'm working or interning at, it's not actually relevant. But in a way, it is, because I'm applying the things I've learned indirectly.
I think like CityMester has definitely given us an outlook of, or different perspective as to how we can look at different places like this, and how we can look at work environments and how we can benefit from work environments. It's not so much, I mean, it is experience, of course, but the people you meet, the people who you're going to remember that day after you spread your email address or you get their business card or something like that. I think I even saw a couple of you guys get business cards at the Spurs, and it's good to see, because that really does mean something, and that's definitely something that CityMester has taught me, because I would have never thought like, oh, let me go actually meet this guy, get their information, and contact them. And so CityMester has allowed me to do that, because we were talking about videos through my nonprofit, through CityMester. I met this guy who has his grand opening of a coffee shop in August. So he's like, hey, can you help me make a trailer? So like we're going to be working on this video together. And so that's what CityMester has definitely taught me, at least over the past couple months or so. What do you guys think?
I definitely agree. You feel like you're learning something. I'm actually reading a book called Thinking Fast and Slow.
I've read that book.
Right?
It's crazy.
It's crazy. Like so apparently this guy talks about. So
he's
it's
a psychiatrist.
He's a psychologist. Daniel Kahneman, and he actually won a Nobel Prize for economics. Something to do with like money, but he's not related to money. He's a psychologist. But he was talking about the experiential mind and the memory mind.
Yeah.
So, for example, if you're experiencing something, and for example, if you go on a vacation, right, and you're enjoying it, and at the end of the vacation, something happens, your hotel messes up or something. At the end of like 10 years, after 10 years, you're going to look at it and you're going to only have a bad memory. You're going to forget about the experience. So he actually talks about like those two distinct minds, like the experiential mind and the memory mind. And I'm having a good experience in CityMester, and I guess like it has also taught me to kind of learn during those experiences, and at least not let my memory mind like cloud the experiential mind.
I specifically remember reading that book when I was before I was a freshman in college, and so in the first like couple chapters he says like familiarity induces cognitive ease, and I sat there and I thought like, what does that even mean? But then it makes sense, like what you're saying. There is like definitely two minds that we use to process information. But like say, Luis, you had a really hard day, and you have a hard day, and you have another hard day, like 3 days in a row. That familiarity of you being,
you get
just struggling through that. You're gonna be kind of comfortable with that, and at the same time, it's kind of you're trading in like 2 times gravity. If you're throwing punches, that one day you go back to our normal gravity, you start throwing punches, you're that much stronger, And I think that's like crazy. And that's crazy. Huh? That book. It's a good book.
So, in other words, if I have a lot of terrible days,
you become better.
One good day.
You're getting better.
Yeah. You get used to being terrible, I guess. Yeah. It's funny.
That's great. Okay, well, what I've gotten out of CityMester, it's pretty much what you just said, you know, weather the storm whenever you think that things are going the wrong way, whenever you think, oh, hey, like, summer's about to start. For me, summer was about to start and I didn't have an internship yet, and I was like, what's happening? And I was just freaking out, and it's like, freaking out about all this never changed anything. What changed anything was, you know, like, trusting that the people in charge, like Lisa, was going to help me out eventually, and that, you know, my own efforts, I was getting myself out there, helping her, trying to get an internship myself, and it ended up, you know, paying off, I would say, or if not, if all else fails at the end of the day, I at least know that I got an experience out of this,
right?
And that I now know, hey, this and this happened, and this is how I felt about it. Whether I liked it or not, it's how I felt about it, and I experienced it, and I now know that I can get through it if it ever has to happen to me again.
Right. And also being exposed to so many different like business situations on different businesses through CityMester, you know, I've kind of not expected anything at this point. I'm just not expecting anything. I'm just gonna apply, and whatever I get, I guess I'm just gonna go work. Just not expect anything.
What I realized, like, you know, talking about expectations, like, you know, if you do have a certain expectation, you kind of visualize your scenario to be that uniform. You have so much room to be upset. You know, but if you don't go in with expectations, you go into, you know, to meet people, make the most out of that experience. Like, you're gonna only have positive outcomes. You know, and I think that's been really important for me, at least, because, you know, with my internship, I have no idea. The doctor, he's crazy. Like, the guy's crazy, but his mind operates because he's crazy. You know, so if he asks me to do something I have no idea how to do, I have to sit there and not, like, panic. Like, it's about really just trying to be like, okay, you know what? In the next 20 minutes or so, I'm going to learn how to do this, and we're going to get through it, you know? And so CityMester has given me that. So I hope, like, that's something that I can continue to take with me to any area. And I think that, you know, if we look at our service site versus our, you know, CitySights, we do completely different things every single week. And so, and to be able to shuffle between different scenarios and situations, we're constantly exposed to different, you know, things that are only going to help us mold perspective.
Right. And also talking about all that in class, it kind of helps you like reflect and shape your experience.
I think that's huge because all of us are doing different things. Like, maybe a couple of us have the same service site, but all of us are doing different things. To see us from the first day to now, it's definitely a beautiful thing, because, like, I did not know any of you guys, you know, the first day of CityMester, and we were all super awkward, whether you guys want to admit it or not, but, you know, we're pretty comfortable with each other, and it's like, what did you guys do last week? Oh, that's really cool. Okay, I want to do that next week. Yeah. But yeah, CityMester's definitely been a eye-opening experience, and it's taught us quite a bit for sure. Yeah. Okay, well, it is 6:36 p.m., still Tuesday, July 23rd. I think that's going to wrap up our first podcast. What do you guys think?
Yeah, sounds good. That sums it up.
All right, cool. Thank you.
Bye. Thanks.